In this video, I'm looking at the LZ-A2 Pro. This is a hybrid 3-driver unit. It's got one dynamic driver and two Knowles balanced armature drivers. Now, LZ is one of the Chi-Fi OGs, been around for many years. This LZ-A2 Pro model is the successor to the popular LZ-A2, which came out several years ago. So we're going to check it out. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. Here is the A2 Pro box. Pretty standard. Actually, this is the most standardized packaging I've seen from an LZ IEM. Most of the time he's got this sort of weird, really Chi-Fi element going on, but this one's pretty standard. Anyway, let's get on with it. I'll show you what you get in the box. You get the IEMs, you get a cable, you get a metal carrying case padded on the inside, and you get 6 pairs of silicone ear tips in 2 different types. Let's have a look at these shells now, and if you like yellow, you're in luck, because the A2 Pro comes only in yellow, but I think it looks pretty cool. So you've got this translucent, smoky, dark grey shell with a yellowy orange, this sort of acetone faceplate here. Looks pretty cool, pretty neat. In terms of build quality, no complaints there. It looks like great and feels really, really good, well built. And in terms of comfort, well, they really nailed it with this one. This is a super comfortable IEM, sort of not neither large nor small, somewhere in between, but very, very comfortable, pseudo custom style shell, and they fit in my ears beautifully, and I can wear these all day long. Let's have a quick look at the cable now as well, and you can see that the cable has been cleverly chosen to match the color of the faceplates. It is an 8-strand SPC, or silver plated copper, and as you can see, it drapes and handles, sits beautifully. It's also got gold colored components, again to match with the faceplate. So overall it's a nice cohesive design, really nice aesthetic. Let's talk about how the A2 Pro sounds now. And in general, it's got a fairly warm tonality. It's kind of warm and bright at the same time. It's one of those types. It's got this fairly heavy bass, a little bit on the thick side. It's not a particularly fast or well-defined bass. I'll throw up the frequency response here. You can see there's a healthy boost in the bass, but the actual quantity is not as much as you might expect after looking at the graph. It does have a fair bit of bass, but it's not huge. It's not a bass head IEM. The transition from the sub bass to the mid bass is fairly linear, so you get this nice weighted sort of meaty bass. It's pretty nice, it's pretty fun. It could be a little bit cleaner, but there's nothing in particular wrong with the bass. Now moving through to the mid-range, and the mid-range is, it's a bit of a mixed bag on this one. The clarity is, I would say it's kind of mediocre. It's about average. It's not particularly good, and it's not really bad either. Parts of the mid-range actually come across as being a little bit recessed behind the bass and the treble. But there is this very large significant peak at 2 kilohertz, which is a little bit unusual in terms of tuning. What that 2 kilohertz peak does, it gives some real emphasis to electric guitars. It gives electric guitars a bit of a sizzle. I don't know why there's such an emphasis on that particular 2 kilohertz point, but it doesn't destroy the whole sound. You know, overall the tonality it's okay. It's definitely not totally accurate. It's more on the fun, warm side. But then again, certain things that land on that 2 kilohertz range, they might sound a little bit dissonant or disconnected from the music. They sort of jump out of the song more than everything else. It doesn't sound quite right. And then moving into the lower treble, the lower treble kind of dips, which is a little bit unusual. And what that does, first of all, it affects the clarity. So that's why the clarity is kind of average on these. It's not particularly good. Secondly, it doesn't particularly lead to good instrument definition or nice clean leading edges and fast transients. So notes in general kind of have a slightly rounded effect, slightly thicker than completely neutral. The good part of that obviously is any lack of sibilance, so there's no sibilance. It's not what I would call a harsh treble either. It's fairly smooth on the ears. That is the lower treble, I mean. Actually in the upper treble, you get it kind of comes up again in the upper treble, which is a little unusual again in terms of tuning. But it's not a particularly bright upper treble. It doesn't sound too thin or brittle or artificial or anything like that. It is a little bit forward, but it's really not too bothersome at all. The overall effect, the overall sound in general, the overall tonality, you know, it's not bad, but it's not particularly good either. It's just kind of average across the board. Detail retrieval is actually quite good. I would say overall resolution is fairly average, and a few years ago this probably would have been a pretty good earphone, but I think in this day and age there's just so much competition, it just doesn't stand out from the crowd. It could be a little bit better. I don't see the reason for that 2 kilohertz peak, and I would like to see the bass a little bit faster, a little bit tighter, and a little bit more clarity in the mid-range. But overall it's not a bad set. Look, if you really want something yellow, there's not a lot of options out there, so you could be onto something with this one. And it does respond reasonably well to EQ or equalization, so you can mess around with it a bit and sort of, you know, you can get it sounding fairly good. But yeah, like I said, there's just so many great options out there at the moment in this price range, so I'm not going to recommend it, but I'm not going to say it's bad either, because it isn't bad, it's just fairly ordinary. So let's wrap it up there, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, Parfam audiophile style. And if you are new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, did you just subscribe? Well, if you haven't, go ahead and hit that button. Go and have some fun with my affiliate links in the description below as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.